Hola, hola. I'm Trek with two Ks,
And I am 3D, and welcome to Metaverses The Other Side.
brought to you here on the Gentleman of Crypto Network. Just a heads up, this episode is before we had the idea of bringing the Twitter spaces to the Gentleman of Crypto Network. And so that's why we're talking about the stuff that we're talking about in this episode.
All right, so basically today we are talking about Tron, which actually it's Tron Legends, I think is the actual subtitle for the movie. And we're going to compare this as into how is it a metaverse movie or is it a metaverse movie at all? And we watched the original one from the 70s or 80s, and that went pretty well. We really thought it was on point to a lot of the things that were going on that we'd call a metaverse movie and stuff. Um, this one definitely is a bit different. It's a sequel and a reimagining, not a remake, but a reimagining. They basically took the original movie and said, okay, how can we spin this to match newer times to make it more exciting and stuff? So they have added new things and changed new things while keeping to the fact that it is a type of sequel. So it does have different various points where we see the homage to the original, but it's still, the new age thing where it's not quite what it should be or what it was before. We do see a little bit of progressiveness in this movie and stuff, and it being from 2010, that's not surprising. That's when they really started putting that stuff in. But for the most part, the movie has almost the same setup as in problem discovery, from problem, which becomes finding a solution to the problem, which was just basically get out, so to speak. There are a bunch of things in here about the movie that both Trek and I feel was just a bit strange or incorrect or confusing, and we'll probably get that here in a little bit if we can get Trek in to be able to speak. It's a bit strange that he got rugged. He's the main host today. So yeah, I don't know. I think the best way to describe this movie is it kinda is a metaverse movie, but not really. I think the original Tron did a better job at being like a metaversal movie. But as odd as it is, we see the exact same issue in this one as the previous one, where there's something trying to create perfection, which then ends up going haywire and trying to exit out of the system in some manner. Where the original, it was more like taking over the inner life system. Now this time it's actually exiting out of the system or the grid or whatever you want to call it. We're still seeing similar setups, but this time now instead of the games being about seeing which program has better capabilities or stronger or whatever, it's about entertainment for the programs.
Yo.
Bro, said.
Okay. I don't fucking know what's going on right now. I don't know if it was the headphones because I'm using the AirPods. But funny enough, I used them yesterday on the joint that I host on Wednesdays, that I co-host on Wednesdays, and they work fine. So I don't know. But yeah, continue what you were saying. I do got a couple of points to add on that because Amira has said something in the DM that I think is relevant to what you're saying.
Okay, so yeah, now this time the games is for mostly the program's entertainment, but then we find out near the end that the actual reason for the games is to take every program that's available to its resources and reuse it for a different reason. And so, kind of strange, but it makes sense at the end. A lot of this stuff, it's kind of like, and then it starts to make sense. Now, I do notice one thing they had in here for sure was ISOs, as they call it, or ISO, which if you deal with code or computers, you know that's your operating system. That is the file that operating systems use. So they basically say native ISOs or ISOs actually start appearing or whatever, and they're sentient creatures from within the grid. And kind of like how a lot of people think that AI is going to become some form of sentient being. We're definitely seeing that they're suggesting that this is a real possibility and that these sentient beings will kind of come out of nowhere. And if you follow the AI track of possibility, there is something called like true AI, where AI actually has no training model, but it is written by AI and it actually can recode itself on the fly, including implementing and de-implementing training models, memory cores, and anything else involved in its entire code from UI to backend to, I mean, everything. And that's kind of what we're getting here is like they were saying that that type of AI is definitely going to be possible when you have a big enough digitally connected social system that is well built up, I guess. So what's up, Trek? What do you got?
Of course, you would finish it when I took a bite of something. Okay, so I remember at the point of well, she just might have been asking the question to make sure it was the right movie, but it was that they got caught or they got stuck in a closed system, and I can't even say game. And the same thing happened that I thought about it. It happened in the first movie too. It was he got caught in a closed system, and I forgot what the name of the AI was in the first movie. And in this one, he cloned he cloned the way they show and you made the point earlier, like it's a Hollywood movie, so like they do certain things that work to make the story move. The short of it is father disappears, son grows up with like a buttload of money and resources. He ends up being a spoiled rich kid who still has a good heart, who then finds his father in the virtual world that he created, that he was going to let like open up to the rest of the world. I definitely, that whole thing with the ISO stuff, I was thinking about that. All right, I'm jumping on a couple of different points. One, it was a closed system, which was the same thing that happened in the first movie. But it also, I forgot who I was listening to, and I think it was what's his name. It's one of the founders behind OpenAI, and he was in an interview and he was making a point of like the possible scenarios of how AI plays out like 50 whatever years down the road of it eventually gets to the point where it does look to get beyond quote just the little box we try to put it in, and it's not just going to be one AI, which in the case of this movie, the majority of the movie takes place in a virtual world. I didn't actually expect Tron to be alive in this or like be a character in this movie. I also thought it was weird they didn't show his face. If you remember, he wore the helmet thing the majority of the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. We're gonna spoil some things. Um, I forgot where I was going just now, but it'll come back to me in a minute. So let's get into like the beginning part of how they how they introduce the movie. It's heavy CGI.
Yeah, it is insane the amount of CGI. They even took one of the characters and degraded his age with CGI. Go ahead, Chris. What's up?
Yeah, it was an interesting choice that they did not show Tron's face. They did, however, show his face in a flashback, where they show the purge, whatever it's called, what was it called when they took over and they corrupted him. And then after that, I think he was in the helmet all the way after that point in time. to kind of create like a more scary appearance of him. I think that was the creative choice behind that, but I found it a little odd too. So I agree with that point.
Yeah, I would even go as far as to say that like just keeps people thinking that Tron actually was dead because they show in that flashback as if he did die.
The funky part is you don't even know Tron still exists until Flurry said something.
Yeah,
Like
they even renamed him too, right? Rensler or something like that.
Yeah, so like okay, so what I realized after the fact was he actually has the T on his chest, but if you weren't paying attention to that little thing, because like everyone had like lights on their outfits, if you weren't paying attention to that, it's just like, oh, he's another foot soldier, whatever. But then he's like in every scene next to Clue, and this is like, but again, I didn't pick up on it until after the fact when Flurry actually says, "Oh, Tron's still alive," and it's like, "Oh, wait, which one is he talking about?" And it's like, "Oh, I'm not even gonna jump all the way to that part of the movie." But anyhow, that was, I don't know if you count that as an Easter egg. It doesn't really count as an Easter egg, but nonetheless, the way they did start out with, okay, now this is just clicking to me. The way they used the CGI to show Flurry as the younger him talking to the son, and then it turns out they basically used the same image as Clue in the system. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm kind of like, I don't know if I really like how y'all did that. That might be just nitpicking about storyline, movie effects and stuff like that. But it doesn't relate to like the VR metaverse thing. But I just thought it's just something I put together now. Go ahead.
I personally love Tron 2. I think it's a phenomenal movie in so many ways. I think the CGI is actually better than it gets credit for. However, I will say that the best parts of the movie to me are actually the flashbacks. And the one that shows Clue's betrayal, awesome. Way too short, of which they had showed much more of that. The other one is like how the ISOs came about. They have another flashback about that. Those are so interesting from a story, from a background, from a sort of like a lore, sort of like the whole lore around the grid that I wish they had explored a lot more. But I understand they had to move the story forward. But those are my two favorite parts for those reasons.
I definitely agree with you about the ISOs. Like I felt like they just kind of brushed over it. As far as Clue goes, I got the idea in regards to his situation of, okay, you felt rejected because you were basically given the task, you completed the task, and then it turned out the task that you were given, like your quote creator didn't agree with it anymore, even though they told you you did a good job. Like, okay, here's something else that I want to throw out there, and I know we're going off topic as far as like metaverse related, where's the connection and stuff, but this is something that I was actually wanted to bring up. Is it me? Or was there a lot of emotion in the system of Clue as far as like he was angry? There was a scene or two where he laughed. He showed deception. Like there was a lot of humanistic traits that were being displayed, and this was just quote a artificial intelligence system that and I really can't remember his first name right now, but the dad had ended up building himself. And I don't feel like they touch on wanting to make the system be like humanistic in emotion and behavior in those manners. But it seems like that's what was going on with that character of the AI. And then it makes me think about the first movie where and I cannot remember the name of what the AI was in the first movie, but nonetheless, the idea of like, I need power, I need to expand. That whole thing of it, like if growth is one of the most basic things, if like growth and expansion, so like mold expands, like animals grow, like if that is the most basic function of a developing organism or entity on any scale, then does this apply to AI? Like eventually enough iterations down the road, like is this a thing? Because that's what it also made me like start questioning. I just let me jump back one. Throwing it out to the group as far as the emotion stuff that was being displayed. And even when they were getting ready to go through the portal to get out, he gave a whole like motivational speech to all of the foot soldiers. I was like, what is going on right now?
So I want to point out that the whole Clue thing is a digital twin, something that we have been back in 2010. It was like brand new type of concepts where we would one day have a digital twin that would be able to like be us after our death and stuff like that. And in those concepts back in that day, it was about being able to mimic our emotions with having our knowledge and information while being able to scrape the internet live in order to get more information. It's kind of stuff what we do see right now with ChatGPT. Um, but I honestly think that like a lot of the because I mean he shows jealousy on top of everything else. I think what he's really there to show be is just that common bad guy. Like he actually resembles a lot of what he does to Hitler. He gets into power honestly. He then takes control. He then becomes mad. He then does a bunch of stupid stuff like the concentration camps and making poor decision making and spreading his troops too thin. He does the big motivational speeches. He says things that are not actually true but are have truth points to it. Like when he's telling everybody, "We're gonna get out. This is the thing." Blah blah blah. You know, a lot of that just I'm just seeing like in that point, and that's probably just because it's Hollywood. Yes, Chris.
It's super interesting because Clue is Flynn, right? And Flynn is actually the one that corrupts Clue by tasking him with creating the perfect system. That is what is becoming that becomes an obsession for Clue, and that drives a lot of his emotions, a lot of his decision making, and ultimately his downfall, if you will. And there's a very powerful scene towards the end of the movie where Flynn's son is about to exit the grid and go out to the real world, where Flynn is confronting Clue, his own digital twin, and he's apologizing to him, saying, "I'm sorry," because he realizes that he corrupted him. And since he created him, like Flynn has been on this path of enlightenment and have reached enlightenment. He's become like this enlightened god within the system. You can see like the AIs around him, they pray when he enters into a room. So he's like this good god, and Clue has evolved into this bad god who's very, very powerful. But that scene towards the end is also one of my favorite scenes where Flynn basically realizes what he has done. He's created a monster and he's apologizing.
Yeah, I did notice that they did have a lot of different god tropes and imagery throughout the whole thing for the original guy. I can't remember his name either. The guy that created Clue. And I do say like some of the progressive notes is that whole point where he's in there going, "No, I corrupted you. I created the problem in you." And in reality, if you have an AI, artificial intelligence, it would be able to adapt to things, right? It'd be able to teach itself things. And so, if anything, that'd be his only falling and wanting a perfect system because at the end they find out, well, imperfections are perfect. And another progressive movement statement. And basically, if he was really an AI, he would have been like trying to get the guy that created everything else out because that is the imperfection, is that one guy. Like the ISOs are imperfection, they're just unknowledged, right? So I think that they had a lot of progressive points that they could have actually spun that differently. Where they could have been like, he could have been like just trying to get rid of him to take over to be able to have full control because as long as he's there, he doesn't have full control, right? So he can't really do his job. But you're not wrong. That whole clash between Clue and the other guy, the original, that is the clash that creates the issue in the big storyline arc. I just think it's not realistic to AI because like AI doesn't have a need to grow. Viruses don't have a need to grow. They spread, they move, they stay constant. And in a lot of cases, this AI I would call a virus. I would say, yeah, Clue really was a type of virus in the system because he was doing something that's unlike what he should have been doing, right? Like he shouldn't be worried about expanding. He should be worried about just making things better. And in some cases, when you look at the overall story, he's taking all these programs and redistributing them into a complete, total, programmable, programmed thing where they're basically soldiers, robots. They're complete robots. Like that's the a common word used for soldiers or infantry. They're called robots often, and we see exactly that in this movie. So in some cases, you could even say he was on the role to creating perfectly by having everyone be exactly the same. Um, but that it that is what makes the movie go round, I think.
Sorry, I was just looking on the notifications. So you already dropped your metrics, bro.
I had it
I had
ready
it
ahead of
ready ahead of
time.
time. Damn. Okay. All right. I'm not gonna get lost on that part. But all right. So there are a number of things that we can definitely jump back and forth on about like what we thought the storyline and stuff was, whether good or bad, or how it helped move things forward. But the primary of this spaces is talking more about like how much virtual reality, metaverse related are these movies, TV shows, and things like that. And so I'm gonna bring that back after I do X amount of this house cleaning, which is this is Metaverses the Other Side, if you don't know, and it is hosted here on the Builder DAO Twitter account, which is me in 3D, and we basically do designing and building in the Uplift Metaverse for folks, and we experiment with some of the other metaverses. More importantly, though, for us is that we look to experiment and play and share information about open source and low code, no code tools that would help people build in more blockchain centric metaverses. So whether you're doing things like DAOs or smart contracts or NFTs, those are the like kind of things that we kind of focus on. And we have put together a website called the Metaversal Toolbox, which has a host of tools that you can actually use in varying levels of technical understanding. Again, no code to low code to even code ready stuff that you can use to be able to do things within the different metaversal platforms. X amount of them are Ethereum based as far as like what's the blockchain related stuff, because that's who has the larger development community right now. But we're looking forward to see what comes out in the next couple of months and years, and hopefully get to add some other blockchain tools, blockchain building tools for metaverses over the coming 12, 24, 36 months. The other thing to note is these episodes are recorded and then what is the word, syndicated on the Gentlemen of Crypto YouTube channel. We are the first late night show. We come on again at 11 p.m. on Friday night, and so these will be played out X amount of weeks down the road. We're actually kind of backlogged right now because when we started this, we did not have the idea of making that particular partnership of the Twitter Spaces, and so it just so happened that it did work out that we do a resyndication of the Twitter Spaces of Metaverses the Other Side on the Gentlemen of Crypto network. I'm gonna say it that way. It's the YouTube channel, but it's a bunch of different contributors on that channel. We happen to be the ones who do this particular thing called Metaverses the Other Side. And so for the folks listening to this later on the YouTube side of it or on the Twitter space side of it, please do like, please do share, please do comment, please do reach out if you have questions. The other thing to note, me and 3D were talking about this earlier, as far as we're probably going to end up doing like maybe one or two more movies and TV shows. And excuse me, we're going to throw it out there as far as looking to bring people on to have more conversation with folks who are building in the space right now. And We're also going to try to get more of the more, let's say, current related news stories, and not news like, oh, this whatever no name project just raised 24 million. No, it's here's the tech stuff that's coming out. Here's things that are being developed. And that's what we're going to be looking to do in the coming months and stuff like that. So if there's anybody who you might have a interest in or know of doing something, and again, we're not looking for the shill, folks. If you're just doing a copy and paste product and you don't get the tech, I honestly will say this up front. I don't recommend coming on here to talk to us because we're going to ask you techie questions. If it's somebody who's just going to shill, this might not be the place for them. I'm putting that out, no cap, up front now. And so in the coming weeks, months, we're going to start looking to have those kind of conversations with people, and just wanted to throw that out there now. If you got any suggestions on stuff, definitely DM us. We would appreciate. And then let's just jump back into this movie. As far as, does it hold up to Tron 1? Does Tron 2 hold up as a metaverse movie? You know what was the other thing that also got me on the beginning? So I think it's like in the first 10 minutes. It's one, the joint that he does with the company when he goes in and he messes with their server and then puts the picture of the dog in as they're holding like the board meeting. And then he, I honestly thought the dude who's the head of the board and then the IT dude, I thought they were going to have more of a role in the movie. I really did. I thought they were going to see more camera time with them, but they didn't. Or they cut the scenes out. I don't know, but I was expecting more from that side of it. I thought that was funny. I thought the hacking thing was funny. And then I thought it was also interesting that he took the software, the company's IP, and he made it public. So it also then makes me wonder, because at the end of the movie, they do a couple of things in like the last like 4 minutes of the movie where it's like, okay, so there's going to be a part 3 to this. What does the part 3 look like now that the company's IP, the trademark software of Tron, is now public, and you have the ISO in living flesh outside of the system? What does this mean? I don't know, but I thought that was interesting. What was the other thing he did? Oh, so for the folks who've seen the movie, do y'all remember when Flynn got caught in the system? It showed the laser thing. I don't even know what to properly call it, but I'm gonna just say laser. And then it shows him getting like digitized, and it's doing like, it showed the cubic spatial thing happening around him. They don't show that in this movie, and I really wondered why. Considering how much like graphics and CGI and it, like, visually advanced stuff is going on, why is it that that particular thing they didn't show? And then they didn't even show what it looked like when he exited the system. And I was just I felt like those were two moments that could have been visually they could have translated that visually into something really dope, but they didn't. But I'm gonna stop the ramble. 3D, you got your hand up first.
All right, first off, I want to point out that instead of a laser, it said aperture on the machine behind him. So it was a form of camera. So he was digitized, so to speak. And I think they didn't show the exit because that would have made absolutely no sense in this case. But yeah, that's the. There was something else you said I wanted to talk on. Oh yeah, the whole going public thing, right? Like if you notice when they're talking about going public, the chairman of the board, like the reason why they're so profitable is because they're basically day trading their stock. They're just day trading it over and over and over and over to build the value. And that was the whole big thing where they were like, oh, now we can be doing this all day, every day, nonstop. There's nothing to stop. And then him putting not just their whatever, it was like their operating system, whatever, on the open net, but it's like that was the only thing to keeping their stock alive. So yeah, there is a TV show or something like that or a cartoon of Tron that came out after this, so that might be the continuation. And but yeah, I think if anything, they'd focus probably more on that of like how the operating system being open allows help to people, and then how the company is falling apart because it's public now.
Bad revenue model. That's just like oh, damn it. Again, yo, I swear to God, the movie Ready Player One does a very big injustice to how the book Ready Player One works out, because that's the same thing they bring up in the book, where it's like they basically made it that everyone had access to the software. The way the company made money was on the ability to travel in the virtual world. And then they did some other thing that I can't remember right now. But it wasn't that they were paying for they weren't charging you to pay for like they weren't charging you a fee to like just get the software. Then they weren't charging you a fee to like have like special features and stuff like that. Like no, everyone had access to the software. The way it is at least explained in the book was that it was offered a transportation system that they had in the virtual world. That's how they were that's how they were making money. But nonetheless, like yeah, that does bring up the I think another point of like with how we look at like the business model of video games right now, the business model of teleworking right now, in that these virtual systems of people being able to do like connect and communicate and deliver services or products, like that part of how do you do all of this virtually, and where do you fit the business model in, or the revenue model type? Excuse me. I think that I don't know. I don't think they intended to really like explore or expand or like give a good spin on that part of the storyline. But I think it is a good question to ask, especially for what we see going on right now. Like, I don't think the metaverse race has really started yet. I do think that the first wave is in the gaming sector, because everyone has that already mental connection. But I think, let's say nearer to 2030, it's going to be a different animal than how we understand metaverses and VR stuff now. And like, where is it appropriate to use this technology or integrate it into something? Anybody else got a thought? I would love to hear.
I did send out speaker invites to everyone again. I'm gonna do it for the whole thing, but
I did
um,
the same.
I, but I don't know. Like I totally do not get this as a metaverse movie. Like, and I did see that DM. I think it was between Aramis and you, where it was like, no, metaverses are online, and to a point, that's right. That's how we kind of see it nowadays, right? Metaverses are online. Um, and it being a grid, I assumed an intranet, but even then, it's still not online, right? So I think that's definitely something we have to start considering more in the metaverse concepts or a metaverse movie. Because before it was mostly just like, are they doing something within the digital space outside of it just being there or spoken about or something like that? And is it interactive? Because we consider a lot of metaverses social interactive video games or social interactive systems that have some form of uh, physical-ish type feedback. And yeah, I think being online is going to have to definitely be one of the new things to consider about it. So yeah, this is funny. I think the first Tron still was a better metaverse movie than this. This was a bit of a flop in that case.
Yo, like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna say kudos to Barris and you because I really didn't think of that part of it. Like the part of like, is this an intranet or an internet? Because in Tron 1, that was an intranet. And then in this joint, he's not even an intranet. Like he's a system in the basement of the old building.
Yeah, yeah. If it wasn't for Aramis's house, I would have never even considered that.
Yeah, I definitely didn't think about that. And yeah, that's a damn good point. That is a damn good point. Kudos, ma'am. Kudos. Okay, okay. Damn, bro. Like, yo, and I was saying this earlier on the live stream I was doing, talking about this. Like, I feel like since we've been doing this, man, like the amount of like things that I took for granted as the understanding or standard of what is a metaverse, what is virtual reality. I feel like through these spaces, I've been going through a very much like crash course week for week, hands-on like learning process of like what do you think it is versus what it is, versus how people are experiencing it versus how folks who are not even in the space, like yes there's the folks in the space but like the folks who are not even in the space and what they're like kind of understanding about it, and just like how it's being pushed out through the marketing popular narrative stuff, which kind of is just in my mind the bigger issue of what I find with Web3 and some of the technical things that are being just like glazed over and just thrown in like no, this is Web3, like it's going to be the future, I promise, like yeah, everything's going to be great. Or it's like, well, you know, this is metaversal, or this is an AR thing, like what was it, like we did the movie Avatar, right? And when Avatar first came out, Avatar 1, no one was calling that a Web3 movie. Nobody was calling that a virtual reality movie. Nobody even said anything remotely near metaverse about that movie. But you do a Google search today, it makes it in the top 50 movies. Like, mind blown for how, I don't know if to say, no,